Welcome back. When there was a prediction that Nigeria will break in 2015, but it survived it, the nation survived. And in 2016, its economic woes doubled the years of its predicted collapse. It is indeed a good time to be careful in every step the government and its people take for Nigeria. What is the way out at what looks like a make or mar situation? From issues of budget and controversy between the executive and legislature to the issues of anti-corruption fight and the Code of Conduct Tribunal amendment. States and governments are unable to pay salaries. Critical questions are asked and solutions are sought. Mr. Femi Falana, a senior advocate of Nigeria, joins me in the studio. Many thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
It will be
my pleasure
to drag you onto this program, but I know you like talking law more than politics.
Thank you.
Well, as it stands now, budget seems to be a major one, and of course you heard when I was speaking with Mr. Adeshina there. Oh, the same Femi. It's interesting. You've looked at how legislature and executive had gone back and forth on these, the removal of project and all of that. Where do we go from here, based on what the executive is telling us?
Well, it is quite embarrassing that in the 4th month of the year, which is going to end, the first quarter has ended of the year, we are still battling with, putting a budget together. It's quite embarrassing. And I do hope that both the legislative and the executive arms of government will go back to the drawing table and fine-tune, what has become rather problematic, which for me, as I reason once again, from lack of understanding of the constitutional responsibility of the legislature when it comes to budgeting, by virtue of Section 81 of the Constitution. And this point has to be made abundantly clear. The President shall prepare and lay before the National Assembly. Because budgeting is a process. You go into the market to know the cost of goods. So the President has to do that through the executive arm of the government. The budget is then laid before the National Assembly. What the members are required to do by the Constitution is to scrutinize the budget, ensure that there are no duplications or any fraudulent insertion of items here and there. If in the course of debating the budget, or the appropriation bill, by the way, it is found that there are problems, the National Assembly is required to revert to the executive. It has no powers whatsoever under the Constitution to rewrite the budget or insert any new item in the budget. When the National Assembly does that, it has made a mockery of the principle, the doctrine of separation of powers. The executive shall prepare and lay. The National Assembly shall scrutinize and debate and ensure that the budget does not contain any fraudulent, items or, duplications here and there. But the National Assembly cannot prepare the budget because that's the implication. If you introduce a new element, that means you have prepared the budget and lay it before yourself, which is illegal and unconstitutional. So the National Assembly cannot increase. It can remove ambiguities or any shady, insertion in the budget. But it cannot rewrite the budget. It cannot increase the budget. Because when it does that, it has usurped the constitutional powers of the president or the governor, whichever, whatever may be the case, to write the budget and lay it before the national. Once one arm shall prepare and lay, the other one shall debate, scrutinize and pass the budget.
The controversy over the Lagos-Calabar rail, the legislature said, no, that project was not there. The executive has said, In fact, it was not in the first one, but it was in the one that we sent to the National Assembly, which, of course, a senator representing Lagos State, Senator Ashafa, said, look, that budget, project was part of what the Ministry of Transportation embedded in their own MDA project. When this kind of situation happens, it's a back and forth. The legislature seems to be having an upper hand in this matter. Where does the executive go?
I think the controversy is totally unnecessary. If you are sure it was in the budget, let's have the budget. Why is it a secret affair? You understand what I'm saying?
I get. The legislature is saying that
there should be no basis.
That the executive wants to use a backdoor technique to put some projects in, and they wouldn't allow that. That's the recent thing that they've said.
I don't understand what you mean by smuggling an item into a budget. Once the budget has been laid before the National Assembly, right? If the Lagos-Calabar project is not there, right? We must admit that. But it's supposed to be an ongoing project. It wasn't an idea of this regime.
From the Jonathan administration.
Of course. So what you should now be asking, how far have we gone with that project? How much are you adding to that project in this budget?
About 60 billion.
Yeah, but don't just simply tell us that this is a strange idea from the blues. That's not that cannot be the situation. It's an ongoing project. The National Assembly has a duty, even if it was not included at all, to find out what has happened to this gargantuan project.
Which he wants to continue with.
Of course. So I would think that both arms of government should once again close the gaps and stop embarrassing the nation. If you cannot write a budget, right? If it takes you 6 months to write a budget, when are you going to implement it?
As the executive not indicted itself, because one of the things the legislature has said that you brought a badly written and prepared budget to us. We fine-tuned it, and now you're coming to us with the idea of the budget we've removed something from the budget. Is that not an indictment on the executive?
Well, I don't want to, give judgments, but I have followed the old debates. And I have discovered, very interestingly, that this year's budget was not in any way different from the previous budgets. Since about 2007 or thereabout, the same items are repeated year in, year out.
Even when it's called the budget of change.
Which budget of change? No, I'm not talking of what I'm saying is that since 2007, there's been a regular pattern with respect to
budgeting
in this country. And year in, year out, people point out the fact that we are really not budgeting for the country. You take a budget to the National Assembly that the executive knew will not be implemented because the funds are not there. So that means you have deceived the nation. And that is why you are told, oh, we have only done 30% implementation or 40%. You are simply admitting that you have violated the law because the Appropriation Act is an existing law in the country.
Is the 2016 budget implementable in the real sense of it?
From the look of things, why not? It's a matter of political will. Is the government willing to implement the budget? If the government is willing, why not?